Jim. He's dead.
Hello, and welcome to Improv Autopsy. I'm your host, Stephen Cadwell. In this episode, I interview multi-talented performer and SAK Theater alum Ryan Smith. Ryan is another legend of SAK Comedy Lab who's left an indelible mark on the theater. In speaking with other improvisers, Ryan's name comes up as an impeccable performer and influential teacher. Ryan inspired many of the people I worked with, who have then inspired others to play and perform both at SAK and beyond. Ryan continues to inspire improvisers and actors at Impro Theater in LA, where he teaches and performs as a company member. If you see he's teaching a class, take it. The improvised Sondheim show that he's in may have already started, so look that up too. Judging by some of the promotional content, it's going to be very funny and so Sondheim. Welcome to Ryan Smith's Improv Autopsy. So I know your name from SAK. I don't think we've met. We may have been, I don't know if you came back for any of the things. I would have been maybe in the room to watch one of the anniversaries when it was still on Amelia Street.
I was for the 20th anniversary, I think, maybe. 25th for SAK.
For the lab or for the company?
For the company, I think.
Okay. Let's start at the beginning. Do you remember when you first became aware of improv and that it existed?
Yeah. I became aware of improv. I mean, I knew of it loosely from, I knew it. People would talk about improv, and there would be high school events where they would do it in theater classes and there'd be improv. All I knew it to be was, either a comedy club, which we get all the time. It's like, oh, you do stand up? Yeah. No, it's improvisation. Or they would be, Robin Williams is a great improviser. And I would be, oh, well, I can't do that. He's just making up stuff so fast and he's so quick and clever. And then I was in college at Florida State University, and someone gave me a tape, and it was a tape of probably, 20, 25 episodes of Whose Line Is It Anyway, the British version. And I just lost my mind. I was like, I cannot believe what I'm watching. I watched it over and over and over again, was just... Again, this is my sort of, when it was on my radar, that's what improv might look like in one form. And I just could not stop watching it. I was so blown away. At the same time going, there's literally no way I could do this. I was in acting school and a theater major, but in terms of the idea of doing improv, terrified me. I even saw the Whammo players at Florida State, which then went on to start Dad's Garage Theater in Atlanta. They did a couple of shows. I went and saw one. And again, I was just in the audience. It was magic. I was watching a magic. I used to love magic as a kid, and it was literally like watching a magic show. I didn't understand it, but I knew I loved it. I just didn't know I would ever do it or find myself on stage one day doing it.
So how did that happen then? If that kind of lit the flame or lit the fuse, when did you take the plunge and take your first class, or what was your first experience performing improv?
Yeah, lit the fuse, and then the fuse just kept kind of slowly burning, but I wasn't aware that it was still burning. I had moved back home to St. Pete after college, and was planning on making a move probably within the next 6 months to LA. And I kind of put out to the universe, I just said, gosh, I really would love to do sketch comedy, if I don't know how to do that. And got a call literally the next day from a guy I hadn't heard from college who said, hey, we're doing a sketch comedy show in Orlando. I'm starting one. Would you want to be a part of that? And I was just like, yes, I would. And I went down there and had my first meeting and met a guy named John Hunter, who was a part of that group from SAK. Yeah, we just did a sketch comedy show. And again, this was written stuff. It wasn't improvised. I was terrified of improv still. And they would just tell me about SAK Comedy Lab. And I just was like, okay, it sounds interesting. But I would just go up there on the weekends and never really saw any shows. I was getting ready to kind of set up roots in St. Petersburg. I decided I'm just going to maybe be an acting teacher or something. That's about it. And John Hunter said, literally the last week I was going to be in Orlando, he just said, hey, I got these SAK bucks, which I don't know if they still have at SAK, where you can pay for items with them, but they're, little fake currency. He's like, I have 150 SAK bucks if you want to take a class. I was like, all right, I should take one class just so I can say I did some improv and I could have it on my resume. And I took the class and I just went, oh my God, this is it. I found it. I found my home. I know what I want to do. And I just became laser focused on getting as good as I possibly could, getting stage time. I took class after class after class, and I happened to be there at this sort of perfect time for me, not knowing it, but it was right at the time when the folks like Joel, Claire, Jonathan Mangum, Wayne Brady, and those folks, I didn't know they were getting ready to shift out and move to Los Angeles at that time. When they did, that moved a bunch of people up into the main company. And I was just kind of doing well. In the time, it was called Next Generation. I think it's called Lab Rats now. Maybe it's called something else. The sort of junior varsity team. I hung out there every single chance I got, myself and Matt LaRue. We were known as the Vultures because we stayed there every single weekend, hoping that somebody would start yawning at the 11:30 show and maybe want to bail out. Because at that point, we were sometimes allowed to be. They would ask us to be in those shows, so we're just like waiting around, and just did everything we possibly could to get stage time. It was a foolish errand because I wouldn't recommend anybody just start taking classes and then hang around a lot, and you'll eventually become a member of the company and teach classes and go on. Because it was. If I tried to do that now, I just go, no way, no way that should work. It's just all the timing plus an affinity for the craft and all that stuff paid off.
Yeah. So SAK, I paid for a class or two with SAK Bucks. I don't think they still exist. And since pandemic, they haven't had Lab Rats or Gen S, but something I think might be in the works in terms of that type of farm league.
Mm-hmm.
To bring that back. But I love that. It says something about the culture of the theater at the time as well, that the Vultures could just hang out and make that sort of progression in a good way.
Yeah. And I will say this, what helped, and I always recommend to people who are on that track of like, I want to get on stage. They're always like, how do I get on stage? How do I get to do what you guys do? How do I do this? And Matt and I were trying to get on stage. We were both in the Lab Rats at the time, and we were not getting, people weren't asking us to be in shows, or maybe occasionally there was like, so many people dropped out, they would ask one of us, but it was not even close to a guarantee. And then we were like, it's that thing where, if you want something, when you're kind of thirsty and people can sense it, they kind of are like, okay, whatever. And then we went off to do a two-man improv show at Fringe, the outdoor stage, called Mr. Baldylocks. I was the bald one. He had hair. And it was like a really successful run at the outdoor stage, and tons of people were coming out, and folks from SAK were noticing us. And literally after that Fringe, we were both asked to be company members, basically be able to do main stage shows. So I was like, oh, we went off and did our own thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I always suggest. I say, go do your own thing, get good at it on your own terms. And people will either ask you to do it or they won't, but don't do it for that reason. Just do it because you love it.
Yeah.
And that's what we did. We finally became the less needy guys that wanted the girlfriend. And the girl noticed us.
What was the driving force behind making that decision? Was it because the table scraps you were getting at the lab weren't enough, or was it just hey, the Fringe is happening, let's go do this for the heck of it?
A little bit of both. I mean, it was kind of that thing of, all right, well, we were just so hungry and so loving playing, and we just wanted more stage time. And this was an opportunity to do it. It's also an example of saying yes in life, kind of like me saying early on, not knowing it was an improv move, but when I was asked to do a sketch comedy show and it felt right in my gut, and I just said yes, and not knowing what that was going to lead to. Same thing, Matt LaRue came up to me. He's like, hey, do you want to do a 2-person outdoor stage show that you've never done before in your entire life? And I was like, that scares the crap out of me. Yes, let's do it. And the impulse was just want to do more improv. I think had it been get noticed by SAK so that they could see what we do, I think it would have had a different vibe and it wouldn't have been as fun and playful. And we probably wouldn't have gotten as noticed in that way.
Yeah. Were you initially commuting from St. Pete up to Orlando? When did you transition to live?
I was commuting to take the class. As soon as the class ended, I was going to move back home and not commute back to Orlando anymore. I was kind of like just done with Orlando. Oh, and there was also a Fringe festival where we did a sketch comedy show as well with Lauren Pritchard. Jay Hopkins was in it, John Hunter, Stuart Maxwell, another ex-SAK person. After I'd done that, I was going to go move back home and marry my high school sweetheart. Oh, and someone said, Stuart's got a place in his an extra room. And I went, oh boy, this universe is telling me to go do this again. So I packed up all my stuff and moved like within the next week or so after finishing that class. And started my Orlando journey, which was about 5 years long.
The sketch show you did for Fringe, is this the one where John had the thing full of roaches?
Oh, gosh. That sounds vaguely familiar. Yes, I think so.
When I talked to John, he said that he had a sketch that he thought was hysterical, where he had basically a giant pickle jar full of roaches. And he said he didn't care, like roaches could crawl on him. He doesn't get weird about roaches or anything like that. And he had it, and he was like doing a monologue, and then he'd open it and he'd pull one out and then drop it so all the roaches would run everywhere.
Yes.
And then he was told that you couldn't do that anymore because the theater didn't want roaches dispersed through the building.
Imagine that. Yeah, that seems like an odd choice. Why would they stop art like that? Yes, no, I do recall that. Yes, that was one. And there was a couple other sketches I'm sure he didn't mention on here that we cut before we tried to do it on the stage as well, which I won't mention here. If he mentioned it, by all means, let him do it. But it was a different time, and I'm glad we stopped him from doing it.
He probably is as well. Do you remember your sketches at all that you were involved in for that show, or anything particularly stick in your mind?
Yeah, there were a couple. I think I did one. Infomercials were huge at the time, and I just did one. To explain it now, it's just silly. It was literally it was a hanger. It was a regular old wire hanger, and it was just telling all the things it could do that were amazing, and which were all just simple things a hanger could do. But it eventually became insane. The guy that was doing the thing became insane. It was an antenna to talk to God. It was all these different things. So, and it was in that that Australian British crazy guy from way back when who was just absolutely berserk.
Yeah, yeah.
So it was playing just a big character. Other than that, I'm blanking on some of the other sketches. One night we were sitting around pitching sketch ideas, and we were sitting around looking at a movie book that just had tons, like thousands of movie titles, and we just kept coming up with every possible porn title variation of that. And we were we thought it was hilarious. So we had all these names, and then we wrote a sketch to that, which was this very sweet woman played by Lauren Pritchard going into a video shop, just asking for movies that if they had, what movies do they recommend? And they just kept recommending every single bad, version of a porno, title of an actual movie. So yeah, real classy stuff.
And that didn't get you onto main stage at SAK?
You'd think eventually, yeah, should. SAK loves that sort of stuff, as we know.
So after your show then with Matt, when you were invited to join, were you then playing regularly on the weekends, or?
Yeah, pretty much. Soon after that, it was sort of like catch as catch can, but we were playing enough to where we were getting some good stage time. But it probably wasn't maybe another year. Then I think that's when I was asked to be like full main staff. At that time, it was being on staff, which meant you had an office and you taught classes and you were required, meaning like happy to perform on the weekends and do all the shows, where it essentially became me, Jay Hopkins, James Newport, and Megan White were like the four main company members that kind of did every show. And then there were occasionally one or two other people that would jump in with us.
So teaching was expected when you joined the company?
Yeah, it was, because there was only a handful of us there sort of in the main company at that time.
Was that your first experience teaching? I know you said you were thinking or just teaching acting in St. Pete. Had you done any of that before? Because your name comes up most often in terms of influential teachers that people have had at SAK.
Oh, that's very sweet.
And classes they remember and that were formative. So obviously, in terms of people that have taken you or had you in a class that they found you had an alacrity for that, did you take to it right away? Or
I did. I mean, I certainly look back, because I teach now as well, and I look back at the way I taught at the time. And as you do when you're starting out, you go, oh, what was I doing? What was I thinking? I'm glad people got something out of it. But I was learning as I was teaching, as I went, because I had never taught before. I was literally running on the engine of, I love this art form so much. How do I impart this to you? And how do I get you up on your feet doing it as well? And try to find people that, and I still love this part of it, because everybody's on their own track, and you're like watching people going, when's that person's light going to go on? When are they going to have that spark? And you see them go, oh, I got it. And then I don't tell them this, but in my mind, I'm like, yep, you got it. And now you're going to spend the next 20 years going, I got it. I lost it. I got it. I lost it. I got it. And until you realize that's just part of the journey. I'm still saying that today.
Was SAK just one class at the time? Did you go through multiple classes at SAK, or was it just one class for you?
Yeah, I took multiple classes. I started with, I'll just say these names if hopefully people know them or remember them, but Megan White was my first teacher ever, then James Newport, both fantastic teachers, and had me just really getting into improv. But the notes I always got were your two in your head, which I just can be too much of a thinker and kind of beat myself up a little bit. And then there was a workshop, just like a rogue workshop at SAK, taught by Lisa Fredrickson. She's the one who I went, oh, like she just had this sort of insane spirit of just, not that Megan and James didn't have this, they just had their own version of it. Lisa was just this, she's like an improv pixie or fairy. She would just like, the magic was flowing through her, and she was just so much pure joy. You couldn't help but be contagious. And everything that I thought was, I'm doing this wrong or I'm doing this, she's like, go with it, do it. And it just taught me to have that spirit. I still work with her to this day here at Impro Theater in Los Angeles.
So was that your moment that you were describing that you see in your students, the I got it moment? Was that class, or was it Megan White's class because that fuse had been lit? When did it really sort of take off for you?
I mean, it's multiple moments, of course, but of course, the initial spark was Megan's class, because that's where I just saw how much fun this art form could be. Then it became now I got to really learn this. It's not just like, it's at anything, I have the spark, and then you go, oh, but there's work to be done. It's not like I just naturally have it. Lisa's class was where I started to go, oh, here's the fun in between the rules, because you learn the rules and then you got to learn how to throw them away, but you do need to have those rules at the beginning and then just use them as tools. And I do specifically remember one moment on stage where I went, this is it. Not that I'm done, but by all means, I go, this is what it feels like. So now I got to chase this feeling, which was, I was doing I don't even remember the scene, but I got up on one of the boxes and there was a sign hanging over, like a little store sign hanging over my head as part of the set. And I raised my hand and hit the sign and it fell off, or half of it fell off. That was surprised me. It surprised the audience. And rather than shy away from it, I like held, I don't know exactly what I did, but I held it up and continued the scene and made that incorporated into the scene. And I was like, oh, this is what improv is. This is reacting to everything in the moment, seeing everything, having that field of vision that sports players say they have. Sports players, good Lord. I like sports. A football player, let's go with football, where they're running down the field and you're like, how did he know that guy was about to tackle him? How did he move that way? It's just, they see the whole field on 360 degrees. I had that moment for just a split second, and that was when I go, okay, I gotta chase this feeling.
Yeah, I'm glad you specified football because I was thinking bocce.
Well, I saw it in your eyes, and I go, if we go bocce, then we're gonna lose the audience. And I went, let's go with a more popular sport.
Yeah.
You seem like a bocce guy to me. So.
Is there anything from those classes that you took that you teach now in your own way? Did you steal anything from the teachers that you had and use yourself?
Oh, of course. I mean, I don't remember the early on stuff. I probably stole from all of them, Megan, James, everybody, because I was just piecing stuff together. The stuff that I recall that I still use today, again, comes from a lot from Lisa, is this sort of, and it was taught, everybody taught it in their own way. It's just Lisa was the one that kind of really sort of solidified it for me, which is that just leap before you look feeling, that when I see an improviser go, I have to justify with my words this emotion I'm about to show you that will then make sense based on the words that I'm about to lead up to. I see them do that and I go, okay, that was, I don't say this out loud, but in my mind, I'm like, okay, that was kind of boring, or that was the sort of, I knew it was coming because you were leading me up to it.
Yeah.
Versus doing a scene that seems like it's going one way and then just going, I'm going to start crying for no reason and see what happens. And then, it changed the dynamic of the scene because I just went, I don't know what this is going to mean. I just know this scene needs a big moment, so I'm going to go for it.
Yeah.
So that in particular, I like to teach.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Now, you said you were referred to as the Vultures, but you didn't refer to yourself as the Vultures, I presume.
No, we did. I mean, they call us. It was all fair game. It was play.
Okay, yeah. But that wasn't a group. That was just referring to you in the green room or whatever.
Oh yeah. We were just, because we just hang around so much like vultures, waiting for people to drop dead, and so we get on stage.
Were there any other groups or group names in there in the mix that you were a part of or can recall?
The sketch group was called, we were known as Contents Under Pressure because that was the title of our show, and that should have been the name of our sketch group. But it was named by, God bless him because I love him to death. He was my roommate for years, and performing partner Stuart Maxwell named the group the Faustian Bargain Hunters. And because it was a very clever name, but nobody knew that was the name of our group. I remember one time we were called up on stage. They go, ladies and gentlemen, Faustian. And we were just like, oh, we sound like a magician's coming up on stage now. So we went by Contents Under Pressure, ultimately. That was the title of that group.
Probably a smart move.
Yeah, I think so.
I need to ask you, I don't know if you remember this or not, but I was told that you, at one point, got a concussion on stage.
Yes. I mean, I'm assuming I got a concussion. I don't think I went to the doctor because I don't think I had health insurance. But yeah, we were doing a show where on the set that was, I believe, built by Michael Plain. I'm not sure. And this is not throwing him under the bus. This is how SAK operated. It was just, I don't think anything was really up to code. I think the statute of limitations is probably up, if that's anything. But the stage was a really fun stage to play on because there were just like nooks and crannies and all sorts of windows and doors that would open and a well in the middle of the stage that you can pop up out of if you wanted to. I don't know if you're familiar with the Winchester House. It's out in California. It was a house built by the widow of the guy who
Oh, yes.
Who invented the Winchester rifle. And she felt so guilty about whatever damage that gun had done over the past that she was like, I'm cursed. So in order to keep the curse away, I will have to keep adding on and building to this house. So there are doors to nowhere. So I refer to that stage as like the Winchester stage, just because there were so many different little nooks and crannies and places. And there were just boards backstage that were just kind of holding something up, but with no regulation. And just kind of like, there was a nail kind of sticking out somewhere. Anyway, so there was a window that was on stage and I hopped up on the window sill with my back facing the audience. So I'm in the windowsill, but with my knees on the windowsill. So I didn't really have any leverage other than the balance of my hands and my knees. And I was kind of wobbly. And I was trying to lift my leg up so I could stand up on the windowsill. But as I was doing that, I started falling forward and reached my hand out to the wall, which it was dark back there and where I thought the wall was. And I probably had another 1.5 feet more to go before I'd reach wall. And my hand went out and my knees acted as a perfect hinge point, and I swung down, and somehow my head hit the bottom of the other side of the window. It's hard to, then there's a visual, there's a audio medium here. I'm trying to describe it, but basically, if you just imagine SAK just falling over and then pivoting on itself, and then the top of the SAK hitting the bottom of the wall with great force, as much force as you could get from that 90-degree or 180-degree fall.
And that knocked you out, or just enough that you were concussed?
I was completely disoriented, yeah, and I just got up, and I know I could feel a golf ball forming on my head, but I kept going, I think, I obviously don't remember the scene. I barely remember scenes that I didn't get a concussion in, but kept going. And from what I remember, I either was told, because Megan White she was pre-med in college, I believe, and I would always go to her for questions if I had any health issues, and she's like, I think it's probably that. So that was my go-to doctor. And I wish I could remember. I hope I went to the ER or somewhere like urgent care. Don't know if I did or not, but I definitely took the rest of the night off after that. That was just one of the bigger injuries for me, but there were so many let me lean on this wall. Oop, got a nail in my hand. Oh, good. I got my tetanus shot. That's good. And then you kind of knew the stage eventually. So you'd have to tell people if they were performing there for the first time, oh, you'll want to duck here. You're going to want to hold your hands out in front of you if you're walking backstage and there's not a lot of light, because there's going to be something that you're going to run into.
Did that prevent or make you pause before climbing into the window after that? Or were you still all about it?
I'm sure I paused for that window. I had or at least was much more careful about that. But I think, especially during the time I was at SAK, there was a sort of a recklessness that we all had that youth kind of gave me, that I definitely go a lot slower now. a lot of just chair sitting and maybe standing up fast, if that's the extent of what I would do today.
I do feel, and I've said this before, but that I love sort of the underground feeling of an improv space that is like that. That feels like, oh, this was an abandoned fill in the blank, or this is a disused, or we've appropriated this space for this. That feels good for me for improv, but those are also the dangers of that, is that, oh yeah, none of this is to code. There's all these different, we've jury-rigged this in a way to get a stage here that is not great in terms of safety, but it feels good for improv.
Yeah, and at its core, it's an improvised set. Somebody just went, I think a board should go here. Well, if that board's there, well, this is going to be bendy over here, so I guess I got to stretch this out over here. And eventually the set is built. And what better to keep you on your toes than not knowing if around the corner is going to be, some danger awaits.
It sounds like you were just a few inches away from that sign knocking you on the head as well. So
yeah, and
near miss.
Exactly, but it knocked me into improv,
which is good. Okay, so I know that you don't remember this entirely, so I'm going to try to jog your memory. So you've been to Chicago at least twice for festival type things.
Sure. That's how much I don't remember. I do remember one.
So tell me about the one that you remember.
The better story will probably be the lead up to it.
Sure.
The actual show itself was a basic your improv show. It was on the main stage, which was cool, but I honestly don't remember what we did. And it seemed like it went okay. I'm assuming I didn't quit improv after that. But what it was for, the reason I was there was because soon after I'd moved out to Los Angeles, I started working with Los Angeles Theater Sports, which is started by many people, but Dan O'Connor was the artistic director at the time. So I was working there for a while, and then he and his partners created a televised improv show called World Cup Comedy. So a competitive improv show. And all the actors, improv actors in LA, were auditioning and blah 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 blah. And they needed a lot of people, so it was good in that way. So a lot of amazing improvisers went through there. Unfortunately, they chose to go with PAX, the PAX network, which I don't think is still around anymore. Not very well seen, so it didn't do so well numbers wise, but. The point is that it was a competitive improv show. It was teams of 3. It was me, my improv partner, Brian D. Bradley, and then this guy named Maestro Clark, who we didn't know, but became our sort of third person. And I'll give you the sort of how the show works, because it was kind of an improviser's dream if the network didn't get in the way. It was a stage with a big Lazy Susan with 3 sets on it. So you'd be on one set. While that set was on, there people were dressing the sets behind. So you didn't know what the set was going to be. You'd show up on stage for your scene. The stage would turn around and reveal what your set was going to be. So it might be a doctor's office. But on top of that, they go, you're doing a film noir. It takes place in this doctor's office. And one of you only speaks in gibberish or something like that. And then you would perform for the audience. And it was 2 teams. And at the end of the show, the audience would vote the winner. And if you won, you'd go on to the next show. If not, you were out. That's all set up for the fact that we quickly learned in between takes, you could just talk to the audience and kind of banter with them. Two things. One, you only got paid if you were on the show, and then if you weren't, you were not paid. We were poor, struggling actors, and we really wanted to get paid. So we learned early on that if you just pandered to the audience during the breaks and stuff, they would like, oh, we like these people, and it's like even if you had a really bad show, they would vote you into the next one. So we just kept doing that, and we did fine. We weren't bad, but I'm just saying I think we leaned into that, and which led us to winning. We actually won both seasons of World Cup Comedy, which to your listeners, that means that me and my team are the greatest improvisers that have ever lived. And we take that to heart. No,
Yeah.
we won that. We quickly learned the sort of reality of what things look like on television versus what they are. Oh, Kelsey Grammer was also one of the big producers on this, and he was on the final episodes. He was like the host of the show, and he would give you the trophy at the end and win if you won. And we were on stage, and we won, and crowds going nuts, and confetti's flying everywhere, and Kelsey Grammer's holding a trophy next to you. And as he's handing you the trophy, you hear him like he doesn't think he can hear anybody. He's just like, "Oh my God, when are we going to get out of here?" So you hear that under your breath. You're just like, "Ah, this is a big moment for us, but I get it. This is small potatoes to you." But anyway, it's just this sort of thing. Like the audience sees us going, "Yay!" But meanwhile, there's big TV star just going,
Yeah.
"When can I go home and have a sandwich?" No disrespect to Kelsey Grammer, I'm sure I'd be feeling the same way. And anyway, so by winning that group got to go onto the Chicago Improv Festival and perform on the main stage. And I think do just a version of World Cup Comedy. So they did games like that. But again, don't remember the show so much, just how we got there.
Yeah. Probably no Lazy Susan when you're in Chicago.
Nope, just lazy improv.
Okay, so 2 seasons then? Was that ran for 2 seasons?
It ran for 2 seasons, yeah.
And how many episodes? Do you remember?
I think it was 13 each.
Okay, not bad. I'm going to have to see if I can find it. That's intriguing. I love that. I didn't know that existed.
Nobody did.
I do remember PAX, PAX, right?
Yep.
I remember its existence. I don't remember what was on it.
FBI was on there. FBEYE was a blind FBI agent. It sounds like an improv game, but it's a show.
Was that like legit reality TV or it was a scripted show where the FBI?
That was a scripted show, I believe. Yeah, I never saw it, but yeah, it was.
I mean, if that's not competing with the X-Files, I don't know what is.
I think if you find clips of our show, sometimes you'll see the little crawl that comes up at the bottom, where it's like I think there is one where it says FBI on there. It's fantastic.
So I'd like to try to jog your memory to see if you remember anything else about the other time you were purportedly at Chicago Improv Festival.
Okay.
I've gotten Megan's version and I've gotten Jay Hopkins' version.
Okay.
And I will give you their versions as best as I can recollect to see if it does anything for you, because they are a little bit different. Megan, when I talked to Megan about it, she said that you all had developed a musical show in Orlando that you were taking to Chicago Improv Festival, but your musical director could not go. And the person that they gave you in Chicago wasn't very adept, and therefore the music aspect suffered a little bit, and she didn't feel like it was a great show. She didn't think it felt great and felt bad about the show afterward. Jay Hopkins, when I asked him, he said, it was a great show. I believe he said John Valinas was with you as well. So it was you three and John, and that you all went up and you played at the Athenaeum, which may have been the main stage for the festival for whatever year that was. And that you guys it was a short form set that you did, and it really hit and was doing great. And because it was doing so well, you decided to end with ABC Shakespeare should have said musical. And that's what you ended with. And it was great.
Then that's the story I'm going to go with. No, I do not recall that at all, which is a little scary to me. I might have to call a neurologist after this. Because I do remember going to a festival with the three of them to Kansas City. Nothing terribly memorable from that, but I did do a festival with that. I do not remember doing this Chicago festival. I'll have to talk to them at some point and find out what specifics can somehow jar my memory. I'll go, oh, remember the room was blah, 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 or whatever. I don't know why. I do not remember that at all. So that's where I stand on the story.
Well, You're also the only one, as far as I know, that of the three that has had a legit concussion on stage, so we can always blame that.
I thank you. I forgot I had the concussion, so thanks for bringing that up as well. I also don't know where I am right now. If you could just give me some guidance.
I know that some of my stories get conflated. Things that have happened or I've done on stage, I will often conflate. So I just didn't know if it was really interesting that Jay's version was markedly different than Megan's version. Jay said that he thought the reason that Megan felt that way was because she was so much more musical than he was, especially at the time. So all of that, she probably felt that a lot more than he did because it wasn't part of his wheelhouse really at the time.
Well, it's totally possible. There's like shows where you step off stage and you had a really hot show and other people did, and you're like, that was great. We had the best time. And people are like, yeah, I had friends in the audience and I really blew it. There's everybody has their own sort of perspective of the show. So I think that might be what happened there. And mine was just to forget it completely. So maybe it was that bad or that good that it blew my mind. And
yeah. I definitely know what you're talking about. Some of my closest friends that I'd done improv with a lot, I had a show like that where I thought it was phenomenal. And then after they're like, what was going on? We feel really bad. And I was like, oh no, I was oblivious on stage. And that makes me feel terrible because usually I'm much more in tune with what, you guys are feeling when we're on stage. And for whatever reason, it was just not in tune with them.
It happens. It happens to the best of us.
Yeah.
I do have a mini scar story if you want to hear it, just in terms of corporate improv that through SAK. It's that I did with Matt LaRue, again, because we were known as like the two-man team at SAK. And we would book these, we added to the list of shows we did, because we used to do like a 3-for-all, I think it was called. We'd go do like a 3-person show. But then we also did maybe it was just 2-for-all, I can't remember. But we booked a show. And making money as an improviser was just the greatest thing ever when that came around. And we got a show, and it was to play a cafeteria in a hospital where doctors and nurses would go on their breaks, and they had been on 12-hour shifts dealing with life or death situations all day long. They're exhausted. And we show up and we're like, hey, the hospital thought it was a good idea if we come in here and cheer you up and do some improv for you. And we just did what we do, which is we would do a word at a time story. We would do a speak in one voice. And we were in the middle of doing a speak in one voice expert, and we had to get questions from the audience. And it's that thing where we're holding each other, you're side by side, holding each other close, and you're trying to speak in one voice. And all we heard was that sort of, clink, 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 that sound of forks hitting plates, very quiet. And it was so bad. And people were asking us no questions. And we had to kind of make up our own questions and just kind of respond to ourselves. And I felt so nervous and uncomfortable in that moment that I started laughing and could not stop laughing. And same with Matt. And so basically what this group saw for about what felt like maybe 5 minutes was two guys side by side holding each other in front of them. They didn't know why we were there, laughing hysterically, doubled over to the point where we finally just said, thank you, thank you. And we left the stage mortified. We were like, I can't believe we just did that. I've never felt worse coming off of a stage. And come to find out later, because SAK would send out forms saying, what did you think of our show? And give us feedback. And Terry Olson, who was running the company at the time, had some little creative questions on there that were not, outside the norm. And one of them was, draw your picture of your experience of the show. And we were looking through the forms, and one of them was just this picture of a devil with like evil eyes and blood falling out of its mouth. And I was like, oh, okay, well, that actually is not a bad representation of what happened that night. But I still remember that picture to this day. I wish I had kept that. I would have framed it.
Yeah. I mean, I, if nothing else, would like to know what doctor drew that so I knew who to avoid going into surgery. Or
I mean, honestly, I think that doctor had the best diagnosis of that show. So maybe they might actually be the one you want to go to. They didn't sugarcoat anything. They told us how it was. You're not going to make it.
Terrible bedside manner, but straight shooter.
Yeah, exactly.
That is impressive. Do you still get as much joy watching improv that you did when you first were getting into it?
I do. It's a different kind of joy. A lot of times it's admiration or jealousy, like, oh, I wish I had thought of that kind of show, or not like bad jealousy, just that kind of, and I get inspired. I don't necessarily, it takes a lot sometimes for me to go to see the magic moments. I mean, they're there. I'm just seeing them differently than maybe sometimes the rest of the audience is seeing them.
Yeah.
And of course there's if you're doing a show for a lot of improvisers and they're laughing a lot, odds are things are going wrong and they're laughing out of pathos, out of like, oh my God, I've been there,
Yeah.
versus when the audience is laughing. I've definitely changed my perspective on what I still love all forms of improv. Short form is where I started. Long form is more where I'm at. I've definitely leaned more into, just as you get older, you start to go, oh, I'm sort of into this is kind of how I teach too, which is sort of the comedy comes from the earnestness versus sort of just the joke of the scene, which is 90% of my stuff coming up was like, how do I get a laugh? How do I get a laugh?
Yeah.
And now it's more like the laugh will come. Or my favorite response now in shows is when people are like, oh, or whatever. There's that sort of, they're leaning in, they really believe in these characters. And then you get a huge laugh out of nowhere because the character said something that was true to the character and also funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you do, or what are you doing, if anything, to keep learning, to keep expanding your improv knowledge?
I mean, I still will take workshops sometimes. A lot of times it's with my friends who are teaching workshops. My friends Joe McGinley and Steve Kieran teach amazing improv workshops, or just rehearsing with either folks from Impro Theater, which is who I'm currently with, and we're always trying out new things and new forms. And we're usually we do genre based improv, like Chekhov or Shakespeare or Jane Austen, Twilight Zone. And it's sort of reading about or studying those subjects is kind of, and then going, how do I transform that into an improvised show? Or I directed a horror show, and that was really fascinating for me because I liked horror, but I was like not a huge fan of the genre in terms of knowing the ins and outs of it. And just studying it, I was like, oh my God, to do horror, you have to utilize so many, your improv cells have got to be firing on all cylinders basically to be doing horror. There was lots to be learned in that.
So if I'm going to distill kind of that or
Yeah,
into
please do.
what I think I'm hearing is that one of the ways you've found to keep sort of expanding that knowledge is by continuing to create an experiment in what you're doing and not just doing the same thing.
Yes, that's correct. And finding that a lot of times people think, and this is the scary thing when people start improv, is you go, improv can be anything. Anything is possible when I'm saying on the stage. Therefore, how do I come up with what I'm going to say? Whereas the improv really happens, as you must know, is that when you're giving yourself parameters and boundaries, then you improvise within those boundaries. For example, in the short form, it's the games. It's, well, we got this sort of sandbox we're in. This is what the sandbox looks like. This is what it looks like when we play in it. This is what it looks like when we step just outside the sandbox, because that's kind of fun because we know what the sandbox looks like and when we're stepping out of it. Same thing with genre stuff. When you're doing Jane Austen, you're not going to go, I am an alien and here I am too. And, it's like that would come out of nowhere. You stay within that world and then improvise within it. It sounds like you're doing the same thing over and over again, but it really expands and gives you places to stretch and learn and do different things within that each individual sandbox.
And for my tens of listeners, when you're talking about doing genre stuff, I think we saw a Tennessee Williams that may be online. You're talking about like a full-on improvised play version of some of this stuff, right? Or
yes,
it's not a scene. This is a full-on improvised Jane Austen.
Yes, we do a 2-act. Usually, it depends where we do it, but usually it's a 2-act play, and so we do from start to finish. Either whether it's Chekhov, Shakespeare. Like I said, Twilight Zone's different because each act we do 3 22-minute episodes or 20-minute episodes. But otherwise, they're usually it's one sustained show. And yeah, and it's a challenge, and it's also it's fun. It's also my joke that it's I get to do all these great plays, but I don't have to learn any lines, which is kind of fun. And when we do a full production, we have a costume designer, and we dress up the period and do all that stuff. Or we have sets built for the show. Or you were saying something earlier about how sometimes it feels like you're performing in a found space, with these improv sets. Well, we will sometimes go to a theater in close to San Diego, North Coast Rep, and whatever set they have up, we will go down there and kind of go, oh, that would actually be a good thing for our Dickens show or for our whatever, Shakespeare. And we will just perform on the set that they have, which is quite fun because then it's not a set built to our standards. We're just like figuring it out as we go. And oh, look, there's these little nooks and crannies that we're discovering as we go.
Do you find that teaching helps keep things fresh for you as well? Or what role does that play in your improv life?
Yeah, it does. Because I forget all that stuff until I start teaching it. And I go, oh yeah, that's a skill that I need to be working on. Everything I'm teaching, I'm going, this is me talking to myself. and reminding myself. It's just they're hearing it for the first time. I'm hearing it for the 10,000th time. But yeah, so I'm teaching a class now, and it's getting me excited to get back up on stage again because it's been a minute since I've done a show. So just teaching these students and talking about improv and getting excited about it again. I'm always excited about it, but just talking about it gets me thrilled and wanting to do the same stuff they're doing in class.
And the students that you're seeing come through, are they part of impro? I'm just imagining that's different than like a level 1 student or a level 3 student at SAK in some ways, or how does that match up?
It depends. There's, we're sort of in transition right now how we do things, but in general, there was sort of a program where you would start with an improv basics class, and then from there, we would start teaching you sort of our style, which uses a lot of theater technique stuff. So there's a 12-week movement, physicality thing, and then it would go on to character, story, and then finally sort of putting up a full-length show. But as it is now, especially after a pandemic, and figuring things out, a lot of the classes that I'm teaching in particular have students of all levels, and I'm teaching them sort of the highest level stuff that we do, and finding that not that anybody can do this, but that if you just give them the right guidance and tools, people are more adept at this than they think they are, and the stuff that we do lends itself to even new people working with people who've been around forever doing the same thing, and they kind of work towards the same goal. And I'm finding that it works on many levels.
Maybe this question might be irrelevant, but do you have to do anything to keep the teaching fresh for you? Is there anything, do you ever feel like you're going to burn out on the teaching aspect, or is
Yeah.
that just natural?
No. Yeah. I feel like pretty much every week I go, oh God, I think I've taught everything I know. But what keeps it fresh for me is I've been having fun with going, what's the skill I'd like for them to learn this week? And then just going, what would be some other ways into that? What would be, there's these games that I already know, or these sort of techniques that I know. And what would be another costume piece to put on this already sort of thing we've done, this character improvised scene or whatever, and just go, what would be something that would be just fun to play with and sort of trick them into doing something? Because basically I'm trying to get them to do the same thing every single week, which is why I get burned out. And so I just go, and I get the same response back. It's like, how do I do this when this comes up? And how do I do this when this comes up? And I'm always saying the same thing, which is just listen, respond.
Yeah.
Now let me just give you all these different ways to listen and respond. And my ultimate goal is to just have them do it enough to where they go, oh, I'm already doing the thing that I need to do. And then they can just relax into it and have more fun with it. Right now, they're just thinking super hard, and it makes it a little more difficult.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm just trying to put new clothes on the same old bones and trying to freshen it up for them, freshen it up for me.
For your shows that you're doing now, do you do post at all? Was post helpful for you at SAK, or is there a way that is more helpful?
Yeah, we do, for the most part, have it in our shows. A lot of times it'll come back and forth because we'll have a director for each of our shows, usually the person that kind of came up with the format, and they will usually email out notes and stuff like that. Or after the show, we'll go, oh, that moment was interesting. We don't go do a really big deep dive at impro after the show. We just kind of talk about moments that worked, and if there was something that really came up where people were, oh, that we were really at odds there, they might talk about it individually or talk about it as a group, or it might come up at a company meeting. So it's less so sometimes than, I remember at SAK, we would go scene by scene and go, this scene, what happened here? What happened here? Did all those things. Over time, for me, I've learned that, and I've been guilty of this too, and I feel horrible about this when I've had these moments, but where the notes felt sort of punitive and not like helpful in any way. It was just like, yeah, you remember when you walked in there? Well, that really ruined my moment in my life. And it's like, or when people have such a specific note, it's clearly just meant to bash them down. It has nothing to do, like, you really shouldn't come into scenes as a penguin wearing a tutu. That's just kind of, well, we don't do that around here. It's like, well, that's never going to happen again. That was just a weird one-off, as opposed to, we had established some stuff in that scene. And so I'm just curious, when you came in as the penguin wearing the tutu, but generally asking, like, I'm curious because it threw me off, but I want to know how I could have helped in that situation. And they can either go, oh, I saw it as you had mentioned early on that the animals like to dress up at the zoo. And so I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. Or they can go, I thought it was funny and I ran out of something. It's like, oh, cool, good. It's not about bashing anybody or making them feel bad, or it's being curious, basically.
Yeah.
And learning from it.
Awesome. Yeah, one of my inspirations to get this going was, I'm at the point now where I feel like the only thing that makes an offer wrong is the response to it, with some exceptions. I came to that conclusion because just reflecting on some of my experiences and the scenes I was in that ended up being terrible, and how that was my fault because of how I responded to offers that I was like, oh, that was a terrible offer. And I was like, well, yeah. And now I'm not going to respond in a way that's helpful. And the scene tanked because I was in that headspace,
Right.
not because of what the other person did.
Exactly. Yeah. I literally just had this talk with my class this past week because somebody brought up, they said, I was just thrown because the person said something that I was not expecting at all. And so I didn't know what to do. And it was sort of they weren't doing this to be mean, but they were sort of basically throwing that person under the bus. And I was just like, well, ultimately, like you're saying, it's up to how we respond to that. And again, there are people that can continually throw monkey wrenches into the works there, but responding to it, there's a great thing that I was mentioning Stephen Kieran earlier from Impro, and his big thing is want what you have, want what you have. And I'm constantly going, whether you wanted that person to say that thing or come in as that thing, guess what? They're there. They said that. Want it, want the hell out of that thing, and incorporate it so much that it looks so. At the end of the show, someone's going to go to that person that came in with that offer that you over accepted, and they're going to go to that person and go, that was genius. That thing you said when you came in was genius. And you just have to go, because you have to just nod your head and go, you're welcome, or whatever. But but truthfully though, like the same ultimately, and this is that someone's going to do that for you when you come in and accidentally do some bonehead thing, or your ego gets in the way, and I got to get in on that scene, so I'm going to come in and, oh boy, I wasn't needed here at all. But that person went, yes, you were, because you're here. And some of the best scenes I've seen in the world happen because of that. And some of the worst scenes I've seen and been a part of have been because of exactly what you said. I didn't want that to be there. Why would you say that?
Yeah.
Don't you know how to improvise? All ego crap. And it's not like I really believe that. It's that's what my ego's going. I feel scared now. I'm afraid. I don't know what to say. And now I'm going to look foolish because of you. All that garbage that has no place on an improv stage, and yet it's going to show up. And so we got to deal with it.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean people are bad. 98% of the people out there doing improv are honest, good, wonderful people. There's, the 2%, the John Hunters. That's right. I said it. I got some beef with that guy.
Yeah, John.
Yeah, take that.
Doing the full-length plays, I don't imagine you're as reliant on audience as SAK is and was. But do you recall any sort of dicey audience interactions in any of the improv that you've done, be it over there or along the way?
I will say to that, we do rely on the audience, maybe not after every scene, but we will get it depends on what the show is. For if it's Chekhov, we will ask for, usually we're staring at a window. What's the view we see? We won't just go, what's one suggestion? Sometimes they'll say it's a pond, a frozen pond. And what do you see on that pond? Is there something off to the side? There's some trees over, whatever. We'll talk to the audience a little bit beforehand. Or my favorite thing that we do is when we come back from the intermission, because everybody thinks we're talking about the show and what we're going to do next, and we're not. We literally, all we do is go, what's our characters' names? Who are we playing? Good, we got that. Okay, we're set, and we don't talk about the show. But when we come back, we say, which characters do you want to see start the next act? Which they will inevitably pick the two people that have never been in scenes together before, or you go, there's no way those two people even belong in the same play together. And then you get the most amazing, that's almost always my favorite scene of the show, when we see how those people relate to the show. Or we've mentioned some dead person or something. The person is not there. They go, how about that person? And we'll go, okay. And we have a great scene where someone's just doing a monologue to this ghost in the sky or whatever. So we use the audience in that way. I do recall, this wasn't a bad thing that happened. This is, again, wanting what you have, but especially in LA, we have a lot of people who bring their, I'm doing quotes with my fingers, service animals to the show, which is just their way of bringing their dog to a show. And we were doing a Jane Austen run, and in the middle of a scene, a little dachshund just ran across the stage and was in the middle of the show. And the woman was mortified whose dog it was, but I believe the actress that it was Edie Patterson O'Connor. If you've ever seen Righteous Gemstone, she plays Judy Gemstone on there. She was the actress who, she's like, no, that's beautiful. She's like, she's one of those people that just jumps on every offer as it comes. And that was an offer. She grabbed the dog, and that dog became part of the show. That was her little, whatever, Fifi or whatever the dog's name was. And, and it was just, and the audience loved it. And the woman whose dog it was loved it. And it was just this amazing incorporation of using what could have been a sort of a nightmare for the audience or the actors. It became this great gift.
And people have been sending dogs across the stage ever since.
Yeah, it's getting to be a bit much, but we've raised a lot of awareness for shelters, and so for that I'm happy. And we still get people who do what I'm ashamed to say I did. Like I said, I saw that Whammo Players show back at Florida State all those years ago, and they said, "What's an object that fits inside of a bread box?" And I was so proud and so funny, and to shout out "dildo" or whatever, it's like, and wondering why they were shaking their heads. Are you kidding me? That's hilarious. Or proctologist, or all the stuff that we get, and we go, "Oh, please, we don't want to see a scene about that." We still get people that say stuff like that, but we kind of educate the audience and go, "That's a funny idea, but we would actually, I don't think we want to see an entire full-length play about that. So let's talk about what we might want to see a play about."
Do you find the audiences that you get at Impro, are they more theater patrons that are curious about the improvised aspect, or are they more people that are into improv and are curious about the full-length play, or is it just a healthy mix?
It's a healthy mix, but we probably have an older audience base and an older cast than most improv troupes. Simply because of that, it is like going to theater, and it's sort of a little bit more of an experience in that way. And we perform often not at our own space, which is just a studio theater. We will perform in like Pasadena Playhouse or the Broad Stage or the Gary Marshall Theater. We'll set up a run at a theater and sometimes be a part of a season. So it does have that feel to it. And even our most recent Jane Austen show we did, which came out of it was the first show that Gary Marshall did after the pandemic when they still couldn't do stuff in the theater, but it was a great opportunity, again, seizing an improvised moment, going, you know what, Jane Austen, they take place in these sort of hedged mazes and all these sort of like outdoor types. And they set up this outdoor show. There was a tea party that had big hedges, and local florists brought in flowers and plants and decorate. And so that was not only a very theater literate audience, we had like the Jane Austen Society come out, and the audience would dress up full. It was an experience. So yeah, definitely different than a torture show or something.
Yeah.
Which I've done as well.
Yeah, me as well. I'm planning on producing one for Halloween around here, fully aware that it doesn't really count as improv. It is all spectacle. I know that. I've been in them as well, and it's Twinkie versus steak, but still, you can enjoy a Twinkie every now and again.
I have no judgment one way or the other. The only judgment I have, not judgment, I should say, it's the only thing is I don't know that I could do one again. I was so traumatized after the one I did, which I think the tortures in that show, the guys were so, we had pudding diapers and pudding socks, which was basically taking off your pants and putting on diapers full of pudding and socks full of pudding. There was the cricket helmet, which was a Arrowhead or Sparklets, whatever bottle cut out that had probably 100 live crickets inside of it, and you had to do a scene with that. Yeah, there was awful tortures. Lard helmet, which I had to do, which was a giant brick of lard that just dripped down my face the entire show. Yeah, but God bless you if you're going to do it. They are so much fun to watch. Just count me out.
Yeah. What I've done, I think, is tame by comparison. Again, I'm going to blame John Hunter because he's the one that I learned this from, because he would produce the one at SAK every year when I was down there. And no, head in a bucket, I think just sticking your head in the bucket full of water was the worst. Yeah. And then the only time I've almost thrown up on stage was he does the conducted story where they keep adding something to the blender.
Oh, yeah.
After people are eliminated. And it was one year, I think there was toothpaste and cat food. And I think it was the toothpaste that really did it. But that was the last time I did that game. Well, had you always been interested in long form? It seems like a natural fit for someone who was a theater major to be doing what you're doing now, kind of a marriage of both traditional theater and improv. Mm-hmm. When was the siren call that direction?
That would be, this is when I become a regular at SAK. And eventually I wanted to sort of expand my knowledge of improv and reached out to Lisa. And she said, well, they're doing really cool stuff at Bay Area Theater Sports, BATS, in San Francisco. And I saw they had a summer program. And I said, all right, I'm going to go take their summer program. And it was Keith Johnstone was kind of the headliner teaching that. And I knew it was going to be more like in-depth short form stuff there. What I didn't know was one of the shows we had to see Bay Area Theater Sports perform was, I think it was Pulp Playhouse, but it was essentially like this long form science fiction sort of film noir-y type show. And it was all basically a play. And I was just blown away. Again, this was like that. This was me seeing SAK for the first time, but now seeing this for the first time. And I came back and I was probably insufferable. Like I came back to SAK going, guys, this is what we need to be doing. Why are we doing? You sort of abandon the thing that you loved until you realize you loved it all. That's where you go back eventually. But you go, we've got to be doing this. Why are we, and whatever, all that stuff. But I was able to incorporate some of that into SAK and be able to try to do some long form stuff there. But that's sort of the first taste of it that I got and found out, oh, I really do love this. Yeah.
When improvises the Jane Austen, do you direct away from comedy at all? Are you shooting for straight Jane Austen and then whatever comes, or do you say we're going to avoid a choice if you think it's going to be funny, try to be more strictly Jane Austen?
I wouldn't say it's a rule, but and this is all of that work is play it earnestly, and the comedy is always going to come because we are improvising. Things are going to go wrong. I mean, in Jane Austen, for example, there's something that's inherently funny, even though we take it deadly seriously. And that's partly why it's funny, is that Steve Kieran, again, he's the master of space object work. We practice riding invisible horses and doing all the physicality, but it's just people standing on 2 feet, just improvising horses and, stepping down off of a horse but playing it very, very realistic. It's hilarious to watch, but nobody's winking at the audience and going, oh, look what we just did. Or here's a joke I'm going to throw in that's going to say, it's a pun on Jane Austen. It's just people playing it earnestly. And again, it gets you both things. To me, that's more bang for your buck, which is this beautiful love story that's unfolding that we're also going, oh my God, they're making it up as they go along. And it's hilarious at the same time, but also moving.
Yeah. Do you have anything to say about dramatic improv or improv that is unfunny, but intentionally unfunny?
I think it's great. And I think it gets because I would say what we do is dramatic improv. It ends up being funny. I know what you're saying. I mean, like, it's a dark subject, or it's handling.
Well, I have trouble articulating it. Of course, there's like playback and there's stuff that's, I don't know if playback would consider itself therapeutic, but where we're doing real stories or whatever, that's not comedic, but it serves a different purpose. So that kind of stuff aside, I was in a little group in Chicago that did an improvised psychological thriller that was supposed to be like a legit psychological thriller. But I'm also of the mind that comedy a lot of times is just coming out the exhaust pipe of improv, and you can't prevent that because we're making it up because of the limitations and what we're playing with. It happens. So trying to force something to be serious sometimes is at cross purposes with improv.
This is a whole other like 5-hour conversation, but which I would love to have, actually. But I think forcing drama is the same thing as forcing comedy, like you're to impose drama on something.
Yeah.
Whereas I keep going back. I've been interested in earnestness, just playing earnestly. And if the sandbox is a psychological thriller and I play it with all the earnestness in the world and I try to act the hell of it, and I respond really as I would in that moment. There's a dead body there and I don't go, oh gosh, look out over there, or make little jokes about it. How would I react if there was a dead body I show up in my apartment? I might just go quiet and freeze and play that moment, or I might scream. I don't know. So, and I'm saying this because what happens with improv, because we're doing plays and we're doing sometimes typically more dramatic genres, people go, I've got to play serious now and I've got to be dramatic and I've got to do these things. No, just play it earnestly. And sometimes you start off with this lovely light play, and then all of a sudden a bombshell gets dropped, and then you watch these people that were having this lovely light moment and everything was light and fun, which is life, suddenly have to deal with this terrible thing that's come up. Yeah, so I would say I play it all the same. They say it in acting too. They go, play comedy just like you're doing a drama. Play it.
Yeah.
The only different, like, what's the example I use? Just change the context. If you go, this is going to be bad acting, but I'm just giving you an example. But just like if you just go, I can't believe you did that. I can't believe you did that to me. Why would you do that? And the context was they killed, I'm going to say this because I have dogs sitting next to me, killed their dog, whatever. That's terrible. But then same line said, because they ate the last burrito that was theirs and they were dying to have that, play it just as earnestly. And it's this comedic scene. There's no difference to me.
Yeah. I think that's great advice. Absolutely. And I feel like really taking something that, because if there's a critique of short form that I think that many are valid, but one of the ones I think would be valid would be, it's real easy to be 2-dimensional or 1-dimensional even in a short form game because you're leaning on the game and the game will get laughs, or it's a lot of wink, wink, nudge, nudge to the audience versus playing a really developed 3-dimensional character that is earnest about their stuff, like you say, and those laughs to me are much better laughs if you get it from that earnestness than because I've slapped someone for the 1,000th time in moving bodies.
Right. Like, play moving bodies or play forward reverse with the earnestness of doing real theater.
Yeah.
And then how many laughs you're going to get from that? Or because if you did do a stage slap on someone in a forward reverse and it came out of this real moment, of like drama, but then you have to do that over and over again, the laughs are already there. Why add laugh?
Yeah.
You're adding laughs on top of laughs. And it's like gilding the lily. Is that the term or I'm thinking of? Or
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, that's, after years of doing it, you're like, okay, I want to try something different. And I, not immune. I still want to come into scenes sometimes, just yuck it up, and I go, "Oh, I didn't have to do that. The scene was already." Just play the truth of it.
Okay, I want to switch gears a little bit. I have some Proustian inside the actor studio type questions that I like to ask.
Okay.
Ryan, how do you get into the proper headspace to play?
It depends on the show, but in general, I like doing something that is not. It's improv adjacent. I like it's SAK. We used to kick a hacky sack around, or something where you're using the improv skills because you're reacting to stuff in the moment, but you're not going, let's do an actual improv game to rehearse doing an improv show. That gets me out of that because that makes me go, oh, that scene didn't go so well in the rehearsal. Now I'm going to bring that to stage. I'd rather just play with people and have this sort of back and forth excitement and then bring that energy into whatever scenes show up on stage.
Sure. Do you have a favorite get for?
I start to sweat under my pits when I have to do a get for. So my favorite way to get one, though, is usually to say, what's your first initial? M. What's something that begins with an M that's not an animal or a food or something? And they might say mother. Okay, great. Because that gets them one step away from the idea that they thought they were going to suggest in the original idea. I want something original if possible.
Oh, it fits in a bread box, but dildo doesn't start with M.
Mega dildo.
Yeah, that would fit in a bread box. Oh no.
Oh, it's a mega bread box. Oh, come on, just go with me, please. I need to see a dildo scene.
My life won't be complete. Well, and speaking of, then the next question is, what is your least favorite suggestion, or is there a flavor of the week you're tired of?
I mean, it was always like proctologist or gynecologist. Yeah, something that. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite way to burn a suggestion that doesn't inspire you?
Yeah, I just go, you know what? We just did something like that recently, and we just want to get a little bit more. We want to try something new for, or never put it on them that they did something wrong.
Yeah.
Going, interestingly enough, we got that last night. Thank you for that. I appreciate it. Do you have another suggestion that might work? And go to them again. Versus, I should say, I've also been guilty of this, but that thing where you go, oh, nice suggestion, dum. Thanks for paying money to see our show and giving us your money, but now we're going to call you an idiot for saying that thing. Just let them know that they're okay. We want something different.
Yeah, I think that is great advice as well. And I've asked this to a few people now, and I think you're the first one to bring it up. But yeah, about going back to that same person so that they aren't feeling alienated and packing up their stuff and walking out.
It gives them a second chance, and if they do go, nope, I want a gynecologist with a dildo, you go, all right, thank you. We're going to move on to someone else, but have a little fun with them. But clearly, you're not going to get something from them.
Yeah. Well, speaking of audience members, this might not come up as often as it used to for you, but what do you look for in an audience volunteer?
I mean, I look for what we ask for and hope for always is just be as sincere and honest as you can. Don't try to be funny. Don't try to be, just give your honest response. Again, it's the same thing as getting a suggestion, so if it's like a pillars scene or columns, whatever we call them, but where you're going to the audience, you don't want them to say the funny answer. You want them just to say the first thing that comes to mind that may be funny or may be out of place, but I just want them to just not try to be funny. Let us do something with what you give us.
Are there any red flags for you? Like when you're scanning the audience looking for a good mark, is there anything that tells you, oh, this is a good person, this person isn't a good person?
I mean, some standout stuff, and it's not 100%, but if someone seems really eager to give a suggestion, I'm like a little bit hesitant to go to them because I'm like, they seem like they might have something chambered that we don't want to even go to. So let's just kind of pass by them. And then other than that, I kind of go for somebody who just looks like they are in sort of a neutral state. They're not arms crossed, like they don't want to participate. They're not like super eager. They're just like, they're present and enjoying the show. I might go, what's your, what do you have for this? And that would be my get.
Ryan, do you have an onstage persona? Is onstage Ryan different than everyday Ryan?
It's weird because I haven't done At SAK, yes, it was an onstage sort of just an exaggeration of myself. Sort of a little wry joke here and there, a sly joke thrown in to undercut the ref to be a little mischievous or whatever. But to undercut it, but then also take the steam out of my own self as well. I won't go into the long story about how these came about, but through a course in Los Angeles, this lovely man, Sam Christensen, who's no longer with us, taught this course on in finding your essences. And you go through this long course and you get these sort of essence statements about yourself and just sort of ways to describe how you're perceived. And my number one essence statement is, you're so not the boss of me, sir. Which encapsulates who that guy was on stage all the time, which was like, hey, I'm a mischievous to the ref. And then, oh, I just, but maybe not so much. That was sort of the gist of who I was and am in real life, basically.
What inspires you on stage?
Let me clarify the question. What gives me inspiration to then act when I'm on stage, or what when I'm seeing it inspires me and makes me go, oh, I'm inspired by that person's whatever move they did?
Either or both. Initially, let's say when you're on stage in a scene, what inspires you?
So many things, but I guess I'm always going back to the earnest improviser, the one that's playing the scene so truthfully that I'm drawn in and I go, I want to play in whatever they're doing right now. I want to get in there and play with them, versus the sort of, not purposefully, but sort of the adversarial improviser who's like sort of challenging you to get up there and play with them. Just the person that's inviting you in because they're so invested. There's a great quote that I don't know who first said it, but I heard a clown say it, like a Cirque du Soleil type clown or whatever. And he said, "Be interested, not interesting," which goes back to that point of trying to be funny or whatever versus just being invested. And so when somebody is just on stage doing space work and building a ship in a bottle, and all they're doing is just focused on that, and I'm like, who is this person? Now I feel like I want to add something to that. I'm inspired to act with them, versus someone who comes in and starts telling me what the scene is through, here we are at the factory, and you know what? You are the boss for the day, and I'm going to be gone for a little while. Let me just say a few more things, and then exit the stage and leave you there. I'm like, okay, well, I'll do those things, but I'm not very inspired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what about then when you're watching? What inspires you?
Full on commitment to the character, the scene, to the unexpected. I know it's all unexpected, but to the really unexpected, when the dog comes on stage and the person incorporates it into a scene. And this works for both on stage, when I'm on stage with the person, or just watching them. And I'll point to my friend Stephen Kieran again, who says, want what you have. Like, there's so many times where I will say something that I doubt myself, and I go, ugh, why did I even say that? And all he does is go 3 more times, go, exactly, that's right. You're damn right. You're damn right. That's what it is. Let's do that now. And you're like, oh, I didn't even realize that was a good offer. And you just made it. He made it so. And so I'm inspired when I see someone do that, and I go, I got to remember to do that for other people, because sometimes you just forget. You get in your own silo and you go, do I look good? Am I being funny? Am I doing whatever? And so it just inspires me to be that person when I'm on stage.
Yeah.
I have a quick story that, and it's not
Sure.
It's less like, ha ha ha, this, improv had silly story, but this is just like a magical moment in improv, which is why I love.
Yeah.
I'm not a very oovy groovy person and mystical and all that stuff, but there's just, especially around improv, there's so much energy that when it's vibing and everything's going great, we're just all picking up on everything that's going on. Like I said, that 360-degree field of vision that we all have on stage at the same time. We were doing an episode or a run of the Twilight Zone, improvised Twilight Zone in, I don't know, maybe 12 some odd years ago. And not to be a bummer, this is years ago, but my mom passed away in 1999. So that's important for this story. We're doing an improvised Twilight Zone, and I'm playing a switchboard operator, and I'm taking all these calls, and I'm the only one on stage, and people are like making calls. And then one of the improvisers in the show started talking to me, and as we're talking and she's asking questions, she slowly reveals that she's my mom, and that she's talking to me from beyond, and we're having this conversation about stuff I never got to say, and she's telling me how things are going to be okay and everything's going to be just fine or whatever. And what the cast didn't know, and I didn't tell anybody before the show, was that was it was on my mom's birthday. We were having that show, or would have been my mom's birthday, and I told everybody after the show, and it's this experience that I don't know that I'll ever have again, but it was like, I'm doing an improvised Twilight Zone while meanwhile having a Twilight Zone moment for myself on stage that nobody knows I'm actually having. Also, because the woman who she's one of my mentors and friends, Joe McGinley. She has a book called Going Long about long form. Brilliant. Your listeners should check it out. Going Long, Joe McGinley. She's also someone who very much in my life just sort of has sort of an essence and quality that my mom had, and I've always been drawn to that. And so it was just weird that she played the character, played my mom, not knowing it was my mom's birthday, not knowing the things she was saying were syncing up with stuff I would have said to my, all these different things. Anyway, it's kind of the magic of improv that I was really happy to be in an experience that seriously only I got, but then the audience also experienced in ways they didn't know it was because of what was really going on, but they got an interesting show out of it because of that as well. So anyway, just be open to all the stuff that's around you, folks. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
That's amazing. I imagine some of them like, that was the most authentic Twilight Zone I've ever seen.
Right, exactly.
I can't put my finger on why, but
Yeah. And then my mom really showed up, which was really strange, and then we had
a amazing. That's amazing. When you're on stage, is there anything that will shut you down or take you out of it?
it's usually my own doing. I'll say something and go, "Oh, that was." I'll just second guess my choice, and it's not supported, and it's not necessarily up to them. But if I feel like the wind come, you just feel the wind come out of the sails, and you're like, "I'm the one who did that," and I will get in my head and kind of shut down a little bit, and it's a tough spot to be.
Yeah. I think you've touched on some of this already, but that's okay. In your estimation, what makes a good scene partner?
Yeah, someone who makes your offers feel like they're gold no matter what. Someone who is really present, who even when they're again that back to the sports player, the bocce player, if you will, or the
Yeah.
or football player, the one that even when they're doing soap opera staging and blocking, where they're looking out and they can't even see you, they just feel like they can still see you with their whole self. You just go, I feel seen by this person, just like you want to feel in real life. I feel seen and heard. You want to feel seen and heard on stage, and they make you want to do the same.
Is there any advice you would give your younger self?
Yeah, the failure is where you learn the most. I played it really safe. I played well within my comfort zone early on because I didn't want to look foolish, and so I would suggest expand that circle 3 times more than you think it should be, and fall flat on your face and see that, hey, look, you're still alive after all that, and nobody hates you, and you learned something. Yeah, that's what I would say. And go easy on yourself.
I feel like that means more coming from someone who literally fell flat on their face or
That might be the.
perpendicular on their face, maybe. But
That was a example. If you're listening, you said tens of listeners of a brilliant callback. That's what is that? Hour and 20 minutes earlier. That was brilliant.
do you have a favorite type of character to play?
Yeah, I have two kind of favorites. I have the just put upon every man, the straight man sort of guy who's really struggling and trying to make it and kind of fumbling over himself and in spite of his best efforts, but is ultimately sweet. And I like that sort of character. But I also like the overly confident, unearned confidence, the person that's just I'm probably playing some version of my dad there, but the sort of knows everything. Yeah, you're going to want to put 20 weight in that tank there. That oil, it's 22 weight, probably 22 is probably the best unless you want to go with that. Yeah, that guy that's just doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, but doesn't matter to him. No, he doesn't know.
If you could do a scene with anyone alive, who would it be?
Oh boy, now we're getting into the nitty gritty. I mean, the first person that came to mind was Catherine O'Hara, just because I think she's someone who plays the most outrageous characters, but so earnestly.
If you could do a scene with anyone in the pantheon of people who are no longer with us, who would it be?
Let's see, play some music. Because because I wasn't thrilled with my Catherine O'Hara. I would love to play with her, but I got to come up with a really solid one for this one. I think I would have to say Buster Keaton. I'd love to do some silent scenes with him.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wonder how good he'd be at improv. That would be fascinating to see.
Oh yeah, probably not, because all of his stuff is even though it's not worded, it's scripted down to the every move. But yeah, just some version of that would be kind of. I think that would be fun to try to do a silent scene and hold my own with him.
Yeah. All right. So if you could do a scene with anyone fictional, who would it be?
Lieutenant Holt from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, played by the late Andre Brower.
Nice.
Here's the thing. This is who I am. I will spend the next 24 hours coming up with every single possible answer that I would have loved to give, other than the 20 that I've given.
No, I think your answers are great. Like I said, it's not exclusionary. These are just, some of.
I know.
What do you find most helpful from the tech booth?
I mean, a good music choice, underscoring. Sound effects are certainly fun, but and I do this when I teach classes, just to teach people that they don't have to say a dang word. Is I just say, just hold that last moment there that you just did in that scene, and then I just bring up some music, and I say, don't walk off stage, just stay, hold that for a second, and it's so powerful. It's just like watching a movie where the music comes up. So a good music choice, yeah, is so helpful.
And the opposite of that, then, what is least helpful from the booth?
Just sort of when they're, and you don't really run into this because they're usually, I mean, they're the unsung heroes of our shows.
Yeah.
But if someone decides to throw in just a bunch of sound effects that don't make sense in the world, or feel just like any other improviser, if they're throwing something in because they think it'll be funny and it has nothing to do with the scene.
This is one that I think you may have touched on or possibly even answered earlier, but other than laughter, what audience sound do you revel in?
Awe, or the that gasp, like I can't believe that bombshell just got dropped. Yeah.
Yeah. Is there a sound from the audience that makes you uncomfortable?
Yeah, I mean, people sometimes audibly go, "Oof," or "Oh no,"
Yeah.
Some it's or it's some sound that sounds like they're saying that without those words,
Yeah.
or just a groan, just a "Oh, why'd you say that?"
Does that do anything? Would that do anything to you performance wise?
Oh yeah, performance wise, it would put me in my head. It would. I've certainly, and this doesn't help the situation, but I will sometimes, even address the audience like, "No, not what I meant," or
Yeah.
and sometimes it's calling it out is fun, and then you get back to it. But it definitely will put me in my head and be something to recover from. Or that's also areas where I've done that, and people like Steve Kieran and other improvisers have said, nope, that's the thing, and they go with it, and then all of a sudden it becomes the part of the show that they love the most, because he turned a weird situation into something that was the most special part of the show.
I imagine it happens a lot less frequently at impro, but if that were to happen in the middle of one of your full length plays, obviously you're not going to be able to not what I meant, because that's breaking the fourth wall in a way that you typically don't, or
Right.
is that acceptable?
I guess it could be acceptable. I think more often than not, what we would do is sometimes if that happened and it was egregious enough that it did warrant it, maybe even or whatever. So, for example, if I just made a joke about something and it was really had nothing to do with the scene, and it took away from the whatever was happening, we encourage the other improvisers to call out the behavior within in character and be like, "Really, you're going to make a joke at a time like this?" Or "That's you through and through." Making you're deflecting when you really need to be focusing on the matter at hand, or whatever the thing is. Yeah, so we would address it, but we in character.
Gotcha. What is the worst venue you've played in?
The emergency room cafeteria.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was definitely a bad room.
Jay's hypothesis, what Jay posited when I talked to him, was that doctors are the worst audience and nurses are one of the best audiences.
I could see that. Yeah, yeah, and I mean it's just, and I want doctors to be the worst audience. I want them to be so focused on what they do that they don't really have time to deal with our crap.
Yeah. It's okay if they don't have a sense of humor. They've got other things to worry about.
Yes.
And this is one that you also may have addressed, and maybe even a couple times. But what's the best note or best words of wisdom you've received?
Slow down. I should say this because slow down gets taken in the same way as like be serious or be funny. Slow down turns into no energy. Slowing down with a purpose in mind. Be interested, not interesting. Focus on so laser focus on the activity you're doing that people can't take their eyes off of you because they're like, what's he going to do next? What's happening? And all you're doing is just focusing. But slow down is the kernel.
What is the least helpful note you've received? Or if you haven't really gotten one yourself, what's the least helpful note you can conceive of?
Like I said earlier, I think notes in general that are to such a degree to a specific situation that will never happen again. So why bring it up?
Yeah.
So the converse of that would be, what's the thing you can address in notes that we can replicate, or that if it comes up again, we know a way around that, or versus that was a one-off. All it serves to do is make me feel self-conscious for even daring to make a choice.
Yeah. Ryan, if there were an Academy Awards for everything improv, what would you be nominated for?
I'd be nominated for like space object work. I enjoy doing space object work and silent scenes, and yeah, so silent scenes and space object work.
Feel like there's a range even of object work, and I've talked to some people that really particularly said they specifically enjoy all the little fiddly, the tiny little the minutia of some of the of things, and really kind of getting engrossed in that and being precise with that kind of stuff. They really enjoy seeing that, and they enjoy doing that on stage. And there's also then I want to have this a really good kind of presence of place and know where everything is. And is there any particular aspect or just the whole kind of bailiwick?
It's the combination of the two. I think they both go together, because I still do this to this day. If I have a spacework class in my hand and I'm just talking to you about it, I will inevitably set it down on a spacework table behind me. Just even if it has nothing, I'm not even doing a scene. It's like I just can't just let go of a
Yeah.
space object. And this is part of what I teach as well, and what most people teach with space object work, which is it's not about the precision. I mean, the precision is great, but it's what is a person who is nervous about a meeting, how do they drink their coffee versus a person who is on a date and having the time of their life. And so it's like that. It just, as long as it informs character and informs the scene, that's what it's about. It's not about like perfect mime and I've got I'm strapped in a box.
Yeah.
So it's the emotional and the technical combination of the two.
Ryan, if you are remembered 100 years from now for something improv related, what do you want it to be?
I want people to say, gosh, I felt safe on stage with him and had a real sense of fun. God, he was fun.
And what do you mean when you say safe?
That they could say anything, do anything, and the proverbial "I got your back." Yeah, I made you feel safe to be 100% you, and not feel like you couldn't bring anything to the stage, and we couldn't make it work out together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's it for this interview with Ryan Smith. I'll throw whatever I can in the show notes so you can look him up, bring him to your theater, or find him to watch or take a class, any of which I think you should do. Find me on Patreon for bonus content now and again, all for free. And reach out to me if you'd like to. My info is in the show notes as well. Thanks for listening to Improv Autopsy.